But before pronouncing what Christian morality is or is not, it would be desirable to decide what is meant by it. If Christian morality means the morality of the New Testament, I wonder whether anyone who derives knowledge of this from the book itself can assume that it was announced or intended as a complete doctrine of morals. The gospel always refers to a pre-existing morality and confines its precepts to the particulars in which that morality was to be corrected or superseded by a wider and higher one. Moreover, because it expresses itself in general terms, it is often impossible to interpret it literally. It possesses the impressiveness of poetry or eloquence rather than the precision of legislation. To extract from it a body of ethical doctrine has never been possible without deriving it from the Old Testament, that is, from a system elaborate indeed, but in many respects barbarous and intended only for a barbarous people. St. Paul, a declared enemy of this Judaic mode of interpreting the doctrine and the plan of his master, equally assumes a pre-existing morality, namely, that of the Greeks and Romans. His advice to Christians is, in a great measure, a system of accommodation to that, even to the extent of giving an apparent sanction to slavery. What is called Christian morality, but should rather be termed theological morality, was not the work of Christ or the apostles, but is of much later origin, having been gradually built up by the Catholic Church in its first 5 centuries. Although not fully adopted by moderns and Protestants, they have modified it much less than might have been expected. For the most part, they have been content with cutting off the additions that had been made to it in the Middle Ages, each sect supplying the place by fresh additions adapted to its own character and tendencies. I would be the last person to deny that humanity owes a great debt to this morality and to its early teachers. But I do not hesitate to say that it is, in many important points, incomplete and one-sided. Unless ideas and feelings not sanctioned by it had contributed to the formation of European life and character, human affairs would have been in a worse condition than they are now. So-called Christian morality has all the characters of a reaction. It is, for the most part, a protest against paganism. Its ideal is negative rather than positive, passive rather than active, innocence rather than nobleness, abstinence from evil rather than energetic pursuit of the good. In its precepts, as has been correctly said, "Thou shalt not" predominates unduly over "thou shalt." In its horror of sensuality, it has made an idol of asceticism, which has been gradually compromised away into one of legality. It holds out the hope of heaven and the threat of hell as the appointed and appropriate motives to a virtuous life. In this it falls far below the best of the ancients. It gives to human morality an essentially selfish character by disconnecting individual feelings of duty from the interests of other people, except for a self-interested inducement for consulting them. It is essentially a doctrine of passive obedience that inculcates submission to all established authorities, but who are not to be actively obeyed when they command what religion forbids. They are not to be resisted, far less rebelled against, for any amount of wrongdoing to us. While duty to the state holds a disproportionate place in the morality of the best pagan nations, by infringing on the just liberty of the individual, in purely Christian ethics the grand department of duty is scarcely noticed or acknowledged.